So what is the reason for the feeling of suffocation? A YouTube member did put an interesting comment about, he says that in his opinion, it's mostly the people who did not get the entire turbinate removed that have this feeling of suffocation, which is paradoxal. So obviously nobody knows for sure. I don't know if there are studies or so. I'm doing this video mostly to have you comment your own experience, your own opinion, belief, and maybe just to share own information among yourself. I'm going to give maybe a few leads, a few ideas for what may cause this problem. I would say that maybe most of the times is a matter of brain reaction, brain interpretation about the actual breathing condition, which obviously it's a damage or it's change after the turbinate surgery, turbinate removal. It's probably a brain interpretation for most of the people, and this interpretation is getting altered, it's getting modified compared to a healthy person by the probably some kind of information the brain gets either or both from the nostril area, and I'll explain in a moment what I mean by that, or by the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is the muscle, maybe Google up for your information, that drives the lung movement. It's a muscle, a large muscle, and this is basically what's doing the breathing automatically. So what I mean by the brain gets the wrong messages from the nostril area, this surgery basically acts in one or more ways. Depends what the doctor has done, what the surgeon has done. And before I continue, I want to point to you about a ENT doctor, a specialist in nose, ears, and throat, I think, who has done 3,000 turbinate reduction surgeries, 3,000. So he is in this domain. And he says openly, a doctor, and this you need to believe it, that, and this I think is going to be appear difficult to accept by many people. I explain why. This doctor says openly, specialist again, these are his words, there is no standardization of this surgery. Maybe some of you are going to be shocked. Why? Because most of the time, most of the people, just myself included before I had this problem, believe that medicine is an almost perfect science, and that's not the case. In some aspects, in some areas, it's perfect. In other areas, it is not. In other areas, there are doctors who are going to, even today, there are doctors who do studies, who come with their own new techniques or doing some health improvement, which takes time to get approved by others. Anyhow, so he says there is no, what that no standardization means, and he does explain that in his video. His name is Nayak, N-I-Y-A-K or so. I can link you his video if you want. So he says basically that all around the world, in all countries, doctors do this turbinate reduction the way they want. Shocking, but true. And maybe you are going to say, but the medical school must teach them. Yes, it teaches them, but there are several ways to reduce turbinates, and there is simply no standards as to how much to reduce, what to do during that surgery, basically how not to damage. There is just no generally approved way to do this surgery in the medical schools, and I think it does cover the United States included, Europe, developed countries, not just in the poorer countries. So he says this is the reason why many people get this ENS problem, because doctors do whatever they want. In his video, he does mention what he's doing. I'm going to sum it up very quickly. Basically, he says turbinate intervention should be basically just a small reduction of turbinates without altering, without changing the turbinate shape, and most importantly, without damaging or reducing the mucosa which is overlying the turbinates. He points out the mucosa has an extremely important role. So I explained this in other videos. This mucosa basically has probably two roles. One is to humidify the air inside your nostrils, so as the lung get humid air, but also probably this mucosa contains surface receptors, which are cells which detect basically the airflow. There may also be nerves inside. I mean, there are nerves because these receptors must transmit their information to a nerve, which then transmits the information to the brain. So some doctors may basically damage the nerve or those nerves, and then you no longer get the information that there is airflow inside your nostrils, and the brain thinks you are not breathing. And maybe this triggers that suffocation reaction or something similar, paradoxal, because you are still breathing. Another reason for this feeling of suffocating or of too much air getting inside your lungs, which may be two different feelings actually, is that if the mucosa, I'm not sure if I did say it, so I was talking about mucosa damage and receptor damage. The receptor no longer feels the airflow. It may also be that if you change the shape of the turbinates, basically the turbinates have, I think, two roles if you think about this. First is to offer, because the turbinate has a complex geometry, offer more surface contact, air to mucosa contact surface. So it's not just a empty cylinder, it has a bigger contact surface. The second is to restrict the air that gets inside the lungs. Basically, it just kind of blocks partially the air that gets inside the lungs. I'm talking about healthy mucosa, healthy turbinates. And this air restriction in a healthy person actually is just like you try to blow through a small hole. What this will cause is the mucosa which sits on the turbinates would get some sort of surface pressure from this air blowing, because as you restrict the air would push against the turbinates, against the mucosa, and just against the passage. So the mucosa gets a pressure on it, and again perhaps the receptors will just sense the airflow, transmit to the brain information. The brain gets that in a healthy person. The breathing gets normal, and you get that sensation of normal breathing. When the turbinate shape is modified or reduced significantly, then that restriction of airflow no longer happens, and the pressure on the surface of the mucosa no longer happens, or it's greatly reduced. So the surface receptors on mucosa simply no longer feel like there is pressure of the air, there is restriction, and send the wrong message to the brain, you are not breathing. So maybe then you feel you are suffocating. Again, perhaps it's, hopefully I try to make this these things more clear, possibly. So either if you have the mucosa damage, those receptors no longer send the message you are breathing, so maybe this causes the feeling of suffocation. Either the turbinate shape is greatly reduced or changed, and there is no air restriction, normal air restriction inside the nostrils, and again the surface receptors on the mucosa no longer feel their air pressure, and again no proper message sent to the brain. If you get some nerve damage, then again this message is interrupted to the brain. And also, this is what I felt actually after my surgery for a few months, is that I was feeling I was getting too much air inside my lungs. So this may be a different sensation caused in my situation by complete turbinate removal. So I was feeling there's just too much air getting into my lungs. And this caused me, I was feeling uncomfortable inside my chest, inside my lungs because of this. I did not feel I suffocate. It's just I feel uncomfortable. And what I did actually, I tried to restrict the air passage, tried to put some bits of foam inside my nose. I cut some air plugs. But I did make a video. If you feel you are getting too much air inside your lungs, I did put a video how to put some devices in your nostrils. Look in my playlist. Yes, so there are, hopefully I did kind of point out to about 4 or 5 factors and 2 situations. The situation of feeling you are suffocating and the situation when you feel you are getting too much air breathing in. Also, you know perhaps already that ENS persons have this nostril dryness. This is almost surely done by damage to the mucosa surface. And I want to point out something that is perhaps not clearly understood by people. So this turbinate surgery may actually involve reduction of 2 different things. The first is the turbinate bone, it's a soft bone actually, the turbinate bone itself. The second is reduction of the mucosa that sits on this turbinate bone. Why I'm saying this? Because I think one of the main reasons why the turbinate and the mucosa block nostrils and people go for this turbinate reduction surgery is there is overgrown of both the mucosa and the turbinate. And I explained this in another video, especially in people who get a broken nose. I explain, it's just better to go for my video in my playlist. I explain why there is overgrown. And then later in life, basically it's happening after you break your nose, sometimes in your childhood. And I explain also that many times the parents don't even know you have a broken nose. You may happen to be 3 months old, fall from, who knows, from a chair or so, face first on the floor, and the nose bones will shift a little bit at that age, but then they will grow shifted to one side. And as you become an adult, this will cause an overgrown of turbinate and mucosa on the opposite side. The body tries to reduce the opening of that nostril. I explained this in another video. I don't want to lengthen this video. So in some persons, it's not necessarily the turbinate that's overgrown, but the mucosa thickness. So normally the mucosa has a thin thickness. In some persons, they may have a thicker mucosa. And when the doctor says this, they likely, I'm thinking many times they won't tell you what they are doing actually. They will simply try to reduce the thickness of the mucosa. And at that moment, you touch the mucosa, you damage it. You damage the small, fine web of blood vessel, which bring humidity to mucosa. You damage also perhaps the surface receptors, the cells on the surface of the mucosa, which send those signals to brain. So you damage the entire way the nostrils are working, operating in a normal person, in a healthy person. So again, I'm pointing this because I didn't mention in another video, and I think almost nobody is saying it on YouTube or on internet. There is always also a possibility that the doctor will reduce the thickness of your mucosa, and I believe this automatically will damage the receptors in the mucosa with the consequences you already know by now. So just keep this in mind. Ask if you want to go for this surgery, do a minimal change, and always ask the doctor. I mean, don't just ask them. Many of these doctors are not honest. Try to manipulate you, maybe you don't believe what I'm saying, just ask the persons who suffer now. The doctors are not, these doctors particularly, they just don't tell you the truth, don't tell you everything. So ask them exactly what they want to do, have them writing, put it down on paper and sign. So they are, if they get scared about this, that's because maybe they are they get scared, they get sued, and they just walk away from that doctor, don't trust it. I did put a few things here. Let me just... yes, I also had a problem myself, which is pretty rare, I think, with my nostrils after the surgery a few years later, getting actually blocked, especially at nighttime. So I did solve this issue. I do explain this on my channel. I don't want to lengthen this video. I think, no, let me check my small list here. Yes, one of the... Okay, so I'm almost finished. One of the things I didn't mention is I also more rarely, but it's just I'm now 15 years since the surgery. Just mostly in the past 1 or 2 years, I started having a very difficult feeling at nighttime. Only when I would wake up at nighttime, what I call dry lungs, and this is a feeling when basically I have to force myself to breathe. If I feel like the lungs stopped breathing altogether. It's a feeling of suffocation, yes. I think there is a feeling of suffocation at that moment, but I especially really start forcing my diaphragm, myself, to breathe and also do deep breaths. So I have to do something like this. This only happens at nighttime. I explained this in other videos, and it's because the lungs get very, very dry. The nostrils also are dry, but yes, this is a reaction, and just maybe ask me a question if you have any questions in the comment section. I described this problem or this feeling in another video, and I want to point out my last suggestion, or there were suggestions in the video, but just a suggestion. In my experience, because the nostrils after the surgery in all persons get dry, especially because their mucosa is gets damaged. In the long term, after, I would say probably around the mark, around 10 years or so, you will have changes in your lungs. The lungs will start dehydrating your body, losing humidity instead of keeping humidity. And I give details in 1 or more videos on my playlist, but my main recommendation is from this moment on, the persons who suffer from empty nose syndrome, my recommendation is to start drinking water constantly and don't stop this. This may prevent future problems with your entire body, like I said, lungs, kidneys, and other issues, just like I mentioned in other videos. So start, even if you are not thirsty, even if you don't feel dehydrated, or you have signs, if you don't have signs of dehydration, start drinking water. It's something that you can do for your future health. Start drinking, I would say, about half a cup every hour, constant. The word constant is important here. As you wake up in the morning, try to drink a full glass of water. It's not easy at first, doesn't feel natural, but I can tell you, after a while you get used, and it's even almost pleasant to drink water like this without being thirsty. So start drinking water, drink more water when you eat. Try not to drink more than, I would say, 3 quarts or 3 liters of water daily, because too much water in your body causes you to eliminate through urine too much salt from your body. So this is not good for you. So there is a maximum amount of water that we should drink daily. But again, force yourself to drink at every hour, even if you are at your job. If you walk outside, have bottles like this. And also, if possible, at nighttime, if you wake up, try to drink some water. This will cause you to go to bathroom very often. But again, I think it's important to prevent future problems, which I believe future lung problems, and from that other problems such as kidney problems, I believe no one with ENS will escape later in life, again after about 5-10 years or so. I think this will happen to everyone who has dry nostrils from empty nose syndrome. So this is my one recommendation: drink water, and just maybe watch my other videos where I explain why. And good luck. Just tell us if you have any questions or suggestions in the comment section. Thanks for watching.